Next on the 5 o'clock report.
We ride or die with Donald John Trump.
If you don't have anything good to say very little.
We'll just count all the votes. We're not used to large wildfires of that nature.
It could impact Florida next week. I still keep a close eye on it.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
A coming congressional confrontation. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. Republicans have been downright giddy since getting back to Washington, flush over their election sweep of the White House and Congress. But when things get serious and official in January, it looks like a short honeymoon is in store. Some of Donald Trump's cabinet picks are already drawing a lot of fire, especially that of Florida's Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. CBS's Nancy Cordes begins our coverage.
Like many House Republicans, Gaetz is an ardent Trump supporter.
We ride or die with Donald John Trump to the end.
But until recently, Gaetz was the subject of a sex trafficking investigation by the department he now hopes to lead. DOJ declined to bring charges and closed the case in 2023.
And even some Republicans are less than thrilled with that Gaetz pick.
Todd, if you don't have anything good to say very little.
The president is smart enough and his team is smart enough to know that Mr. Gaetz will never get confirmed by the Senate whatsoever.
Gaetz and some other Trump picks are expecting a rough ride to confirmation, even in a Republican-controlled Senate. Also late word that Trump will pick Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to head up the Department of Health and Human Services. Kennedy's been, among other things, an outspoken critic of vaccine mandates. There's one U.S. Senate race still up in the air, and that's Pennsylvania's, where the apparent winner, Republican Dave McCormick, didn't win by a large enough margin to avoid a state-mandated recount of some 6.8 million votes. With most recounts typically changing vote totals by a small amount, McCormick says challenging his lead of about 27,000 votes is a waste of time and taxpayer money. But Casey says it's right for the process to play out.
The mechanics of that are governed by state law, so it's a process that's been invoked, I don't know, in 20 years, 7 or 8 times. So this is pretty not out of the ordinary, so we'll just count all the votes.
Casey did have the option of waiving the recount. Fox correspondent Brian Yennis says while the recount's unlikely to change things, that's no longer the big question.
This is now a legal fight. Casey's campaign wants undated or misdated mail ballots to count, even though the Pennsylvania Supreme Court just 2 weeks ago ordered that they should not count. The final county-by-county recount totals due out no later than noon on November 27th, the day before Thanksgiving. The coming change in U.S. leadership seems to have emboldened Iran, which, through its Middle East proxies, has stepped up attacks on U.S. forces there since the election. Correspondent Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon.
Since the U.S. election, Iranian proxy groups in the Middle East have ramped up attacks on U.S. forces, and the Biden administration has responded with immediate retaliatory strikes in both Syria and Yemen, a more immediate, muscular response than we've seen in the past year.
The U.S. strikes have included the first combat use of carrier-launched American F-35C stealth fighter jets to take out terrorist weapon stores.
These facilities housed a variety of advanced conventional weapons used by the Iran-backed Houthis to target U.S. and international military and civilian vessels navigating international waters in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden.
Pentagon Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder. And a new terror threat on the home front as well. FBI agents in Houston say they've arrested a man for giving support to ISIS. The agency says the 28-year-old is accused of attempting to provide material support to ISIS, admitting to planning a terrorist attack on U.S. soil.
Communications included the discussion on his alleged plans to commit violent acts in Houston and his desire even to use an explosive belt.
They say he was researching how to conduct an attack on local military recruiting centers. Well, that large wildfire in downstate New York along the New Jersey border still burning. That's about half contained. Firefighters from the Family Life Listing area are among those who've done battle with those flames, including these firefighters from Allegheny County, New York, who told WKBW what it was like.
You're talking, over 5,000 acres that's burning. That's almost unheard of anywhere around here.
We're not used to large wildfires of that nature, right? So we really leaned on the forest rangers out there to assist us with that, and they did a great job explaining, what our task was.
And Nicola Deneva with the Varna Volunteer Fire Company in Tompkins County, New York, said a couple of Cornell University undergrads there. They're also volunteers with Varna.
We might not have a lot of apparatus, and that's part of why we didn't send an engine or a tanker. We just sent a utility vehicle. But what we are very proud of and what we can provide is personnel.
Well, from fire to water, too much of it. Hurricane forecasters are watching a new system in the Caribbean that could eventually impact Florida to some degree.
It will eventually make its way into the Gulf and could impact Florida next week. Thankfully, the models have come down on intensity. That said, if you live in the Sunshine State, I still keep a close eye on it.
Weather Channel meteorologist Stephanie Abrams. A judge has ordered tech giant Meta to face a trial. It could result in the forced breakup of Instagram and WhatsApp.
The question is whether or not Facebook owner Meta has an illegal monopoly over social media, and in particular by its controlling of Facebook, Instagram, and the popular messaging platform WhatsApp.
Tech expert Ian Scher. Should be a thriller in Philly tonight. The Eagles host Washington. Thursday Night Football. Eagles 7-2, Commanders 7-3. Eagles QB Jalen Hurts compliments the Commanders.
They have great coaches. Obviously got a lot of familiarity with them, and they got great players playing hard.
Kickoff 8:15 tonight. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report. Unionized postal workers deliver a message to leadership, punching back at a proposed Scranton Beltway, and a recap of how pro-life causes fared in the 2024 election.
It'll be rather cloudy tonight. There will be a little bit of evening rain across parts of western New York and western and central Pennsylvania. Low temperatures 30s to near 40. Now for tomorrow, sunshine in central New York. Elsewhere, morning clouds giving way to sun, but the clouds will be most stubborn tomorrow in northwestern Pennsylvania. High temperatures mid-40s to the mid-50s. Bright skies on Saturday, some sun Sunday. Both days will be seasonally cool and dry.
Thanks, Kevin. Now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Some Western New York Postal Service letter carriers rallied yesterday, looking to deliver a message to management following recent contract talks. Dave Groskopf Jr. heads up Branch 3 of the National Association of Letter Carriers. He tells WIVB that USPS doesn't value those workers highly enough.
We need to put the value back into being a letter carrier. The Postal Service has, retention problems. The Postal Service has attendance problems. The Postal Service has morale problems, and all of that, in my opinion, swirls around the inadequate wage and benefit package.
He says the current offer on the table of a 3.9% wage increase over 42 months won't even allow carriers to keep up with inflation, and that it's likely to be voted down. The union says it's been without a contract for about 600 days. A meeting tonight will talk about the future of the water supply in Syracuse, New York. Advocates are calling for a state of emergency due to concerns over levels of lead in the drinking water. This environmental activist says it's time to get the lead out.
Let's go forward. Let's remove the lead pipes. Let's fix the water system here in Syracuse.
But city officials insist that testing results show the water is safe to drink in the Salt City. When you hear Beltway, you may well think of I-495, that famed highway that rings Washington, D.C., but plans have been in the works for years now for a Scranton Beltway aimed at reducing I-81 congestion and accidents by connecting it to the northeast extension of the Turnpike. A Beltway hearing in Pittston Wednesday night found some unhappy homeowners in the Beltway's way.
Would you like to have your mother lose their house?
The amount of traffic that you're going to dump from 81 onto that Beltway is minimal to what you're going to spend to buy out memories and families that are there on that town right now.
Total Reconstruction and Expansion Manager Brian Mostek tells WBRE the project will address some serious problems.
There's a lot of congestion and a lot of accidents on I-81, and this is providing an alternative route for residents and freight and just enhancing mobility in the region.
The estimated price tag for the Scranton Beltway tops $236 million. There's another hearing set for tonight at Abington Heights High School. Mostek says the final stages of that project are projected to happen spring 2025. Actual construction, though, not beginning until 2030. And families in New York's southern tier have a new indoor play option for their kids come the winter months. Hope Church in Painted Post hosting its first open play day this Saturday in their new indoor playground. Hope Church's Ashley Smith tells WENY.
The vision for this is that there's not a lot for kids to do in our area in the winter, and we want them to have the most amazing time and have a playground right here in their backyard. There's the Rochester Museum of Play, there's like the Children's Please Touch Museum in Philadelphia, but we needed something in our area.
The indoor playground features over 40 different play activities, including a big slide. All right, today's Faith Under Fire feature revisits abortion on the ballot. While voters in New York and elsewhere approved pro-abortion measures, there were 3 states where pro-lifers claimed victories. One of those is South Dakota, where Kelsey Pritchard is an advocate for saving unborn children.
We had victories in Florida, Nebraska, and South Dakota, and those victories over their all-trimester abortion ballot measures are really huge, and they're the first kind of victories we've seen over abortion amendments since the Dobbs decision. And they send a very big message to the abortion industry, to the left, to George Soros, to have been pushing these. They poured $110 million into Florida, yet still lost. When the GOP fights these ballot measures and exposes how extreme they are, these things fail. When people know what they're voting on and understand that abortion ballot measures allow abortion at any point and they take away parental rights, the voters overall reject that agenda.
What was the turnaround? I know in 2022 we were told that abortion is a losing proposition for conservatives.
Yeah, I would say in 2022, I know the media tried to highlight and say that, the pro-life movement is over and it's a losing issue. But really what we saw in elections in 2022 was we saw that a lot of pro-life governors and governors who had passed laws to protect unborn babies win very big.
What do pro-lifers like you and Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, say the next steps for folks who want to fight against that?
And I just think we need to also, in even these states that don't have a good abortion law, that have a bad amendment, there's still things that we can do with pregnancy centers and to support them as they come alongside and walk with women who have unexpected pregnancies and to just be the hands and feet, really, of the pro-life movement. There's always hope. We know that we were under the power of the Roe decision for 50 years, and so the abortion industry really has a grip on our culture and on the narrative, and it's going to take time to undo that. And so we have to be patient. We have to keep persevering and keep marching forward so that we can fight the greatest injustice of our time and be a part of the solution to the biggest human rights violation of this century.
We have our full interview with Kelsey Pritchard online. Go to familylife.org to hear that and to find a link to how Pennsylvania pro-lifers were active in swaying voters in October and November. That's the news podcast page at familylife.org. Your nightly market report is up next, brought to you by Faithward Advisors. Wall Street closing with stocks lower this time around. This comes as Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell gave remarks in Dallas and said the central bank doesn't need to be in a hurry to cut rates. It's also as the post-election rally continues to lose some steam after it pushed the major averages to new milestones. At the closing bell today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell by 207 points to 43,750. The S&P 500 fell by 36 to 59,49. And the NASDAQ dropped by 123 points to 19,107. Faithward Advisors, a Christian financial planning firm helping faithful stewards do more. Details are available at faithwardadvisors.com. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Have you ever told one of your teachers thank you? Hi, I'm Rob West with today's Faith and Finance Minute. Thanksgiving Day is just 2 weeks away, and leading up to Thanksgiving, I'm focusing on Colossians 3:15, which says, "Be ye thankful." Now, that's about being thankful to God, of course, but by implication, we should be grateful to the people God has used to bless us. So, is there a teacher in your life who had a particular positive impact on you? Perhaps a high school teacher, a college professor, or a Sunday school teacher. If that person is still alive, what a blessing it would be if you called, emailed, or sent a card to say, "Thank you. You made a big difference in my life." Your words of thanks are sure to bring that person great joy. Connect with a certified Kingdom advisor who's been trained to deliver financial advice that aligns with your Christian values by visiting our website, faithfi.com.
Thank you very much. Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, love letters from long ago.
Mostly cloudy skies tonight. There will be a little bit of evening rain across parts of western New York and western and central Pennsylvania. It'll be mainly dry during the overnight hours. Could be a little fog. Low temperatures, mid-20s to mid-30s, but closer to 40 in western Pennsylvania. Friday remaining rather cloudy in western Pennsylvania. Elsewhere, morning clouds yielding to sunshine. High temperatures will be near 50. Looking ahead to Saturday, mostly sunny, crisp, pleasant, comfortable. The Saturday high temperature 50 to 55.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Finally at 5, a fascinating find in a Missouri Salvation Army thrift store. A trove of old love letters from a World War II soldier who was stationed in the Philippines, sent to his wife back home.
This isn't such a bad place, and they treat you swell. And if there was any loving from you, I can definitely take it. Ha. Love always, Chester.
Store manager Tina Eifert reading one of Chester McMean's letters to his wife, Alma. The store has hired local investigative journalist Megan Duncan to try to reunite the family with those letters. And she says it's been quite an education in how hard soldiers' wives work to keep the home fires burning.
From the very beginning, she was looking for a sewing machine. So throughout the whole thing, he was like, honey, you will find that sewing machine. But so I just always crack up because she spent the whole war looking for this perfect sewing machine. But that said, she was amazing because she also worked, and she was running things at home.
Now, after the war, Chester and Alma lived the post-war American dream, opening up their own business and raising 3 successful children. And that's the world we live in for this Thursday, November 14th, 2024. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.